for the city of Monona for Monday, May 2nd. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Bussey?
Here.
Alder Wood?
Here.
Mayor Miller?
Here. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of the April 18th meeting?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Corrections, deletions, additions. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. In the appearances section, we have one appearance. We have Rob Kaleda.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Rob would like to speak for informational purposes regarding the Schluter channel assessments. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. Can I give these guys?
Sure.
To you?
Yep, thank you.
All up here.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name's Rob Kaleda, and I just wanted to talk about the Schluter Beach assessments. We talked to the Public Works Department about the assessment schedule, and in the original assessment schedule, they utilized an adjusted frontage calculation, very similar to what was utilized at Belle Isle, something I think you championed, Mayor, where there was nothing under, the lowest would be 50 feet assessed frontage, and the highest would be 100 feet. And back a few months ago in the original assessment by the Public Works Department, they used that adjusted frontage calculation. We went back and forth a couple times with the Public Works Department, and they've now adjusted the amount of dollars to be allocated, to be paid for by the residents and by the city. But in that adjustment, they lost the use of the adjusted frontage. And they didn't really provide, at least to my satisfaction, a reason to do that, other than they didn't feel that it was necessary. And I know that that's something that's been done in the past with dredging projects. I know that's something that that Mayor, you are in favor of. So in using an alternative assessment schedule, which is alternative 2 in your outline there, which is the last page, it simply uses the adjusted frontage calculation that was used for the Belle Isle dredging, which is no less than 50 feet assessed and no more than 100 feet assessed. It changes the amount that the city has to spend by $0. But it does even out what the 4 residents have to spend. I also spoke at the last finance meeting and the last city council meeting about the concept that there are 2 things that need to be removed from the park, or from the channel, the sand that was eroded from the park and the silt that has been deposited by the stormwater runoff. In the alternative 2 that I provide you, and in the assessment that you're voting to approve, I guess, in your packet, the city's not charged at all for any additional dredging other than the additional amount of the 90% for the removal of the sand. And the people that I've spoken to in the past have argued that to charge the city for additional monies for removal of the silt would be what was called double dipping. And I made some arguments against that. I can make them again. I'm not sure that they're going to work a second time, since they didn't work the first time, but you weren't here, Mayor, for that argument, so I'm happy to do that if you want. But anyway, alternative 1 simply includes the city as the largest adjacent property owner, with the 242 foot of frontage on the park, adjusted, of course, to 100, as has been past practice, and that's alternative 1. That would increase the amount that the city would pay for the dredging by about $3,800 on a project that, as I recall, is $100,000 under budget. So I ask that you just consider those alternatives, it would even out the payments to the property owners. It would be fair to charge the city, I think, for the additional removal of the silt, and it would make this project more in line with the assessment protocols that were, at least the frontage protocols that was used at Belle Isle. Thank you.
Do you have a preference of the two options you're proposing, Rob?
I mean, I think alternative one is the most fair. I mean, the argument really is should the city be charged for both the removal of the sand that eroded off of the beach and the removal of the silt that came from the stormwater? And I argue yes, because they're two completely independent events. And I used a quick analogy, and I'll just do it here quickly. So say, Mayor, you and I both ordered Chinese food from a Chinese restaurant, and we're both pulling in the parking lot to pick it up. I pull in, I park just fine. You pull in, and you hit a parked car. And you admit that you hit the parked car, and you have to pay for the damage to repair that parked car. Now, we go into the Chinese food, and you say, well, Rob, you should have to pay for both of these Chinese foods because I already paid a lot of money to fix that car out there, so I shouldn't have to pay for the food that I ordered. While I would argue that that's two independent events. You hit the car, the sand eroded off of the park, you need to remove that because you put it there. We each have our own responsibility for the food that we ordered, the silt that's in the channel. We should pay that. So,
And the cover, the first page is what's
The first
currently
page is
before
the-
us.
is the assessment that's been approved by the
Public Works Committee,
Public Works Committee.
after you and Nancy had appeared.
Yes,
So this was the compromise
this was the
from the
comp.
first, and
Yes.
you're asking for another compromise. And why are you proposing number two, if number one is your preferred outcome?
Well, there seems to be reticence to charge the city twice.
We're hurting. Times are tough for the city.
Believe me, I understand. I don't want to, as self-serving as this is for me personally, I'm trying to make it as logical and scientific as I can. I'm a trained scientist. So I'm trying to put up proposals that I can defend in a data-driven way. And that's number one. I can't really provide a strong defense that the city should not pay for their role in the silt removal, other than what you just said, is that it's hard times for everyone. And therefore, I offer option alternative two. It's
But
less well defensible, but I believe significantly more defensible than the option on page one, which fails to use the adjusted frontage method that was used in the Belle Isle dredging project.
So again, our historical has been a 70-30 split. Public Works,
Mayor,
because of a compelling argument. Well,
this was already approved at the council. We approved the method that was to use last meeting unanimously. This is for the intent to actually follow the policy. We have to do intent to use our police powers under the code. So this is not the allocation anymore. The council approved that like 2 meetings ago. These methods.
the 90-10, that's in
Correct. This has been
different-
approved.
But which was a change from the historical 70-30
Right.
to go to 90-10.
Right.
Okay. And you're asking for,
But what was lost was the adjusted frontage in that. The original proposal was 70-30 with the adjusted frontage. The new one was the 90-10 without the adjusted frontage. I'm simply asking you in alternative two to put that adjusted frontage method of calculation back in. And alternative one is the additional charging of the city.
Any questions, Rob? Otherwise, I'd like Dan. What was your take of the meeting and how it was left at the meeting?
That is correct. The decision was
You want to come up, please? Excuse me, Rob.
The decision was made to not do an altered minimum or maximum frontage. It was for the full shoreline frontage. 90-10 split for the full frontage.
So everything was considered at Public Works?
It was considered at 2 Public Works Committee meetings, 2 finance meetings, and 2 council meetings.
Okay. Alder Bussey?
I was going to say, this originally came, and Rob, you and your neighbors presented some arguments, and it was sent back to Public Works to iron out. Then it came back again for 2 more rounds at City Council and Finance, if I'm correct. So, yeah, Mark's right, this is water under the bridge. It's not something that we would be voting on tonight.
So when it went back to Public Works, as these meetings go, we can make appearances at the beginning of the meetings, but we're not allowed to say anything during the meeting. So at the Public Works, the second time it went back, we made our argument for the 90-10 split. It was very effective. But at that time, then they removed the adjusted frontage. We did not prepare an argument for why we should maintain the adjusted frontage, because that was in their original assessment. And so we've not had the opportunity to go to the Public Works and argue again for the adjusted frontage. We didn't think we would have to argue with it because it was in there before, and that's what they did at Belle Isle. We didn't even consider the fact that they might take it out. That perhaps was to our detriment, but there was no precedent to take it out.
And I guess I look to you, Dan. What is your thought on what happened?
I guess my take, have to go back and look at the minutes for word, but the comment was double dipping. Initially, it was in there for the min-max. Once it was kicked back to consider the 90%, 10% split, the mins and maxes were taken out.
Okay.
I think the committee felt that the city was paying enough, and that's what came forward to Finance and Council.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add that if you look at alternative 2 with the mins and maxes in there, it doesn't cost the city anything extra. It simply distributes it more evenly among the residents, the affected residents.
Property owners.
It doesn't.
And have the 4 property owners discussed these numbers amongst each other?
We have actually. Dan can, I think he can speak to that. There are those of the property owners who are in favor of splitting it 4 ways, which would be fine with me, but again, I can't argue that that's a fair way to split it because there's no precedent for doing that way. Mm-hmm. There's no precedence for using the actual frontage either. What the precedence is the 50-100.
And either way we go, Dan and Mark, I guess I look to you, we would use our same 6 years, 7 years of payment. 8 years, and it would not be assessed until the
project's completed.
The full year after the project completion.
Usually.
So this would start, the increment would start in probably 2018.
So it would be this, so not this December, the December after that. So yeah.
Okay, so it's 7 years starting in 18.
8 years.
So whatever number we agree to or don't agree to, it's okay.
But the numbers have been agreed to. I mean, after the Public Works meeting, there were two finance, 2 council meetings after that, and there were appearances at that time, and this split was what was decided.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there are no other appearances this evening. There is no unfinished business. Item 6, new business. 6A is consideration of Resolution 16-5-2098, the award of bid for the 2016 street microsurfacing project. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval. Second.
Second, Mr. Stefani.
Thank you, Mayor. And what you have before you is the bid information, resolution fiscal note for the street microsurfacing project. We have $275,000 in this year's capital budget. We received our bids on April 8th from two contractors, Stuckern, Irwin, and Farner, to complete this work. The low bid, base bid, was $221,420.02. This will be taken to the Public Works Committee this coming Wednesday, May 4th, for consideration. Notification letters for the project will be sent out within the next 2 weeks, notifying all the affected property owners. The bids fall within our allotted amount in the capital budget, and as you can see by the fiscal note, with the mill and overlay that we're going to be doing, we're going to have just under $7,000 balance left over. I'm hoping to do even more work with that balance once both projects are done.
Microsurfacing is what we did on Winnequa last year.
Microsurfacing was our big project from last year. Winnequa Road was part of that. We had a few areas on Nichols and on Winnequa that delaminated. That's going to be taken care of under warranty. But basically, it's the same type of project.
I guess that was our first year of doing that, and you were cautiously optimistic. What is the verdict on?
Well, given the amount of microsurfacing that we put down, even though you see some delamination on Nichols, I think overall it was a good success. This year,
Winnequa looks beautiful still, other than those
well, there's
two
two
huge
gouges there, and we're not sure what caused that yet. That wasn't from the snowplow.
No, those are huge.
Yeah. We're going to be going with a black granite aggregate as our main aggregate this year. From a difference from the black boiler slag that we had as our main aggregate last year. The difference in performance there is there's more bonding with the black aggregate, believe it or not. So we're going to use that as our main product this year. So
Alder Bussey.
This goes to Public Works this Wednesday.
yes, and this
So
is only first read tonight. So,
Well, not for here,
Not
so
for here.
right.
what I'd like to do is,
Table this till next
no,
week.
I'd friendly amendment that contingent upon approval by Public Works. Is that
Yep.
okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add, Dan?
Nope.
All right, there's a motion to approve this contingent upon approval of Public Works. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6B is consideration resolution 16-5-2099 is awarding of the bid for the 2016 street resurfacing project. Mr. Stefani,
Thank you,
is there a
Mayor.
motion for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Stefani.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Again, we have $275,000 in our capital budget. This will be allocated to the street maintenance account. We received bids for this project on April 15th from three contractors, Wolf Paving, Payne and Dolan, and Tri-County. Wolf Paving provided the low base bid of $48,447.76. We will not be doing the alternative on this one or the previous project. This will go to Public Works Committee this Wednesday, May 4th, for consideration. And the locations, as you can see by the bid summary, are also included here. We're doing mainly our resurfacing on Winnequa Road, a few different areas on Winnequa Road, and then there's a small section on Crestview Drive off of Beldy that we're going to be doing full depth replacement because that asphalt over there is shot all the way through. So we had an alternate bid to repair the road bed. We don't have enough money for that, but when we pull out all the asphalt, any soft spots that are there, that's where you see that road base repair amount come in. So there's a portion of the contract that's there to beef up the road bed a little bit. So
As always, when I see this kind of disparity between the bids, I get a little concerned. Do you have any concern? Because Wolf is substantially lower, and the other two were
Wolf has
commensurate
been
to
very
one.
aggressive lately, the past few years.
And you're
They've
happy
had
with
our
their
projects
service?
the past 2 years. This will be 3 years in a row now. They do good work,
Okay.
and they're getting a lot of projects in the area. So I have
I can see why.
no
Alder
worries.
Bussey?
A friendly amendment, make it contingent upon approval by Public Works.
I agree.
Okay. There's a motion before us to approve the recommendation of Wolf Paving as the low bidder, contingent upon approval of Public Works. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Dan. Item 6C is consideration resolution 16-5-2100, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment police powers under Section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes in the city of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin for dredging work to Schluter Park Channel. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. Again, Mr. Stefani.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet is the resolution and project map location for the dredging and the properties to be assessed. This is following the guidelines or outline in state statutes 66.0703, the preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessments for the Schluter Park Channel dredging. The 4 residential properties will be assessed for the work, the shoreline frontage method, and as specifically detailed on the attached map. Total amount assessed against the properties in the above described project area shall not exceed 10% of the cost of improvements to the city of Monona. This is what was decided by City Council at the last meeting. The final resolution for assessments and the public hearing will be at the May 16th City Council meeting. The engineer's report will be completed by this Thursday and available at City Hall, the city clerk's office, to meet the requirements of the state statutes, and that will also be provided in the packet on May 16th for City Council.
Questions of Mr. Stefani and Mr. Bussey?
At the Public Works meeting, when the residents were there, was it brought up to the residents if they would want the project to continue, or would they prefer the project to be canceled? Was that ever something that was brought up?
Mr. Stolper mentioned that, and I don't know what light he mentioned that, but that was brought up, and I think the consensus among the residents was to move forward with the project. I believe that was the case. They do want the project to happen. I think the residents' goal was to get the best bang for their buck.
Right.
But we spent a lot of time at Public Works Committee, Finance Council, and I think we did a good job as a city hearing the residents, just like we did at Belle Isle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're first getting the preliminary resolution to you now. It's because we followed the same format that we did for Belle Isle. Let the residents be heard, have council consider everything, and then put our assessment notices out there.
What was the vote, Dan? Was it unanimous
Yes.
at this? Okay. Further discussion? Anything else, Dan?
Nope.
All right. Motion before us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Item 7 is acceptance of the general fund accounts payable checks dated April 15th to the 28th, 2016. Mark?
Yeah, don't have a lot of stuff here, but I'll just kind of hit on a couple things. Here. Page 2, I know we talked about this last meeting, was brought up, this full compass system. What this is video equipment that was used, bought to upgrade the system at the high school control room, which they've been in a lot of breakdowns, and it was part of the capital budget. So it's there, and it's upgrading that system for better feed and better.
So it's within the budget?
It's within the budget,
Okay.
yep. So that was planned for. Page 3, I just want to hit here, Ingram Library Services. We buy a lot of books from them, but there's little books called Books for Life. You'll see in there. Those are come through a donation account, so they don't actually, we get donations for the Book for Life program, and we buy them through that system. So there's an in and out of those books.
Is that the same, what's the Friends donation to Highsmith, same thing?
Yes, that'd be the same thing.
Okay.
Page 4, this one hit on Johnson Trees, just so you're aware of. We did do our first quarter pickup, and I remember it's every other month, so I believe that would be June is our next pickup, to be aware of that. This one hit on Lark Uniform Outfitters, just want to show you what.
Excuse me, can I just interject, Dan? So I have a little more time on my hands instead of moving. Johnson, they will roll a lot of equipment out. Do you have interaction with them? Are they happy with the agreement? Are you happy with them?
I
It's a
would
very
say-
different style than the old days, that they're loading these into the back of trucks, all this brush, and they're using front end loaders, and there's a lot of equipment going in. Or at least it was next to my house.
So that might have been
For brush pickup.
That was brush pickup, or
Yep.
was that a contract?
No?
Okay.
No.
I think as staff, we've been extremely happy with Johnson Tree Care. It's the brush collection. If there's issues that come about coming from the residents, it's basically taken care of.
I was very impressed, but I'm like, wow, this is above and beyond the old days of
Yeah,
shoving it in the chipper.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
As
they
far
had
as-
a clamping, a
Using the grapple?
Bobcat style grapple
Okay.
to lift brush to put it in the back of a truck, and I'm like,
Okay, well, that's
so this
more
is
the-
all within our budget.
This is all within our
Okay.
budget.
It's a fixed contract.
Yeah,
Okay.
as far as the contract
good
tree
service.
removal, whenever we request it, they're right there.
Good,
It's been working good for us.
good. Thank them, I guess, when
I will.
you talk to them, 'cause
Sure.
they do a good job. Excuse me, Mark.
That's all right. Jumping any time here. Lark Uniform Outfitters, I just want to hit on that. These are vests for the police department. We have about 20 officers total. This is what it costs to replace one of their vests per person.
And we replace them because they break down, or why do we replace them?
Usually because of breakdown or upgrades.
It's budgeted?
Yeah. We don't replace everyone's every year, but just, it's a thing. If you want to page 9, if you have any questions, just want to hit on this, another one too. Accurate appraisal. Everybody should have had their assessment. Open book was done last week. And I think board review is sometime in June 2nd.
Is there anything that, as a rule of thumb, came out of that? Because I'm stumped on these appraisals. I'm absolutely stumped on
Yeah,
how, and you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
So those people who came in and had concerns,
Joan probably did the majority of those because she.
are the majority considered, or do we stick with the appraisal, or?
They did adjust a few, but most of them did stay the way that they were. They based it on sales of property, and that land and built and improvements were being so out of whack. So now they've brought them back to more even.
By adjusting land up.
Yes.
And they also did walkthroughs for the quarter of the city, and that made a difference too.
Yeah, and I've shared that with Mark, but several realtors that feel we're leaving a lot of dollars on the table. Because there's been some sales recently where they are way, way above assessed value.
Yes.
And that's okay, that's great, but then how are they gonna come through the appraisal process?
Right.
And apparently they're coming through the appraisal process, which then tells me there's a disparity here. If the appraisers and the banks are agreeing to these disparities, then,
Happened to me.
and it seems to be a black magic
Yeah.
process so I guess the point being, watch out, I won't be here, but watch out next year, because now there are going to be comps all over the city. There are houses selling on every block.
We
And
found,
what I think the trend's going to be, or Monona's going to have a substantial tax increase.
Overall, we went up about 5%. There was one that was adjusted, and I haven't got a new construction number yet, but I believe there's one of them, I don't have the new construction, it was adjusted through the open book, before the open book, but I think it's going to be at least $15 million in new construction at the minimum, so that's a really good number. I know it's based on one building so far, but I haven't got the number just based on that, so I think we're going to be better shape with those, so that came out pretty well after some
And
adjustments.
again, it's the public speaking. If people are paying for these houses and condos and everything at
Yeah.
these rates, that's telling me that is what the market, but this is not what we've been taxing at, so.
Well, just to clarify, the tax levy is unrelated.
that's a
yeah.
whole-
Yeah,
yeah,
I just
that's a
wanted to
separate
clarify
subject.
so that people
Yeah.
maybe watching might think, oh, my
But
taxes are
I'm
going to go
assuming
up. It's
Alderwood's
assuming.
gonna be putting in budget things that are just gonna drive that levy up, so, no. It's all good, but it's different.
Yeah.
The market is very alive right now.
Absolutely.
I really don't have much, but other things, page 14, McCabe, some right-of-way tree replacements that was purchased. And that's about it that I have, unless you have other questions.
Dan, any updates on Emerald Ash Borer?
I just was going to, just to make a motion to approve or accept the general funds payable.
Okay.
Appropriate at this time?
There's a
Or?
motion second. I just want to hear from Dan on that one. As it
As
relates-
far as our practice, nothing new than what we've been doing the past year and a half or so. As we're doing it as a case-by-case basis, just like we've talked about, like I said, about a year and a half ago. We're not taking the approach of just cut them down because they're ash.
And you're comfortable, I guess I've been asked about that, and we're not being ostriches
We're
with our
staying
head in
on
the
top
ground.
of it
We're on
right
top
now.
of it, but
Once we see a tree get to about where half the canopy is dead, we get Mike involved again, and the decision is made at that time. Yes, it's time to take it down. No, let's leave it up. But that approach seems to be working right now, and we have the budget for it. And I think that's probably
very
what I'll come
different
back
than
with.
Madison,
Yeah.
very different.
We don't have nowhere near the amount of trees that Madison has, but,
No, but we
other
have a lot
smaller
of
communities
ash.
like ours, they've done the blanket cutting, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I like the
Mm-hmm.
council's approach to tackling it. Let's wait for the tree to be affected, then let's take it down.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second for approval of the checks. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion for adjournment?
Move adjournment?
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.